Well, hello and welcome to PM Express. And today we are looking at a subject which I hope and I wish that we would have spent, more time on it, during the year, sporadically just raising the issue and talking about it. But unfortunately, it doesn't get as much airtime as serious as it is. Today is World Suicide Prevention Day. And even though there are 7 billion people in this world, I'm telling you what, there's nothing more scary and dangerous than being lonely amongst all these people. Oh yes, you could be in a family of 20, 30, you've gone to school, you have classmates, you work, and you have an issue which you just have no one to share with. And sometimes when you get to that point, you may contemplate ending it all. But however, there's always help. But you need to know that there's the help. And that's where we could have come in and probably educate people that no matter what it is, there is always help. And there's light at the end of the tunnel. That's what we're looking at today. I was listening to Dr.Akwasi Osei this morning, and he was saying that not only are we, jumping too frequently, but the age is even dropping. Yes, little girls as 9 years old already giving up the fight. At 9, teenagers giving up the fight. And it's so easy to sit down and judge, why would you do that? I mean, you look at your situation and sometimes they tell you the story and you think, I pay money to be in your shoes, so why are you going to jump? Why are you going to hang? Why are you going to take some toxic stuff to end your world when my situation is worse than yours? And that's what we don't seem to understand. Listen to Akwasi Osei again, who was saying that somebody who got all A's and a B, wanting to end his life or ending his life. If he saw my results, Jesus Christ, what would they have done? Never even got a B. Forget about the A. And so, if such a person came to me to say, "Look, Nana, I'm very distraught and want to end my life. Why?" He says, "Well, I got all A's and I got 1 B." What advice do I give such a person? Really? Give me your results then. But there is light at the end of the tunnel, and that's what we are hoping to find within the hour. And I hope that Aisha will give us the phone lines as well, so we speak to you guys out there and see there must be somebody sat in some darkness who want to open out to somebody. You can anonymously call, and today I have experts on the show. Who knows? Maybe we can save 1 or 2. My name is Nana Nsakwa, the 4th Chief of the Little Republic of Akomo Edumasa. When I come back, we're trying to find out why it is we are jumping, why we're jumping too early. Don't go. Well, thank you very much for staying. And as I said, we are looking at World Suicide Prevention Day, but we're focusing on Ghana, how to help our own. I say charity begins at home. With me in the studio, CEO, Mental Health Authority, Dr. Akwasi Osei, and has done a lot in this area. Doctor, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Nana.
And I'm very grateful because I know it's been a long, grueling day, but for God and country, you're here.
Thank you very much.
So I'm grateful. My viewers are grateful too. And he can run, but he can't hide. Health-Bekoe. Every time I've called him at the wrong time, or he's otherwise engaged. But today we got him here. It's a clinical psychologist, Health-Bekoe. Adolf, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Prof, Doc, is contemplating suicide a mental condition, or just frustration, people just getting frustrated? I mean, do you have a role to play in this?
Well, thank you very much, and good evening to your cherished viewers. The fact of the matter is that for every 100 people who attempt, contemplate, or who attempt and who complete suicide, 95% of them had mental health problems.
Wow.
Mental illness of some sort. 80% of them are from depression. The remaining 5%, above the 95%, may be from some other causes, like for some religious or political purposes, and therefore not necessarily mental. But otherwise, a lot of issues are what eventually lead to mental health issues that eventually lead to suicide. Some of them may not have been a previously existing mental health problem, but at a certain point of committing suicide, the pressures of life, socioeconomic issues, all kinds of pressures would have pushed him into what you call acute stress reaction, at which point he feels that all his coping mechanisms have broken down and he sees himself as the only way out is to commit suicide. So largely, yes, they are mental health issues.
Before you guys came on the show, right, I thought, oh, that's a good combination I've got on the show. But I mean, what part would Dr. Osei play, and what part would you play should somebody decided to give up? I mean, do you give him drugs and do you talk to him? I mean, what part? How do you come in?
Well, I think you've hit it. As a psychologist, we deal with talk therapy. Basically, we will talk to the person, engage the person to do an assessment to understand the factors responsible for what the person is going through. We don't deal with medication, you know. So Dr. Akwasi Osei, as a psychiatrist, will deal with medication. I mean, he stated earlier on that 80% and above have mental condition. As a result, it is followed up by suicide. And I say, yes, they would deal with a biological basis for that particular condition. And there are biological basis for why people would think the way they do and act the way they do. So that is the distinction between psychologists and psychiatrists. There are some psychologists who are prescribing psychologists, but to a large extent, they do psychotherapy, talk therapy, and then the psychiatrist will do the medical bit and psychotherapy as well.
Let me stay with you, Adolf. I mean, I was listening to Doctor this morning, and he said a student got, all A's and a B. Got so disappointed in not scoring all A's that I don't know whether he wanted to end it or if he did. I mean, if I were to show you my results slip, I mean, well, I wouldn't get a skyscraper to jump off it. So, I mean, for such a person, I mean, why? I mean, you're fine.
Well, I mean, before someone contemplates suicide, there must be some cognitive distortions, and there are a number of them. There is one we call the selective abstraction. You pick the little thing and blow it out of proportion, and your expectation in life, you had 95, 98. Somebody has A, and is wondering which particular mark gave him A. If it is not 95 and it is 90, the person is going crazy. The person is having difficulty. It is how the person has been socialized and the expectation placed on the person. Okay, so the goals we set for our children, in this day and age, parents put so much pressure on children to achieve without taking cognizance of the strength. We are all differently able. So when you socialize your child to always go for the A's and not even a 90A, 95A, there is a certain gap that he would really wants to, a mark he wants to attain. And anything less than that would definitely not be accepted. It's seen as a weakness, it's seen as a failure. I either hit a 95, anything less than that is a failure. It's all or none.
So, Doc, I mean, what paracetamol would you give for this?
Mental health problems are in degrees and they are of various types. Not all of them will require medicine to be given. Some will require, as Adolf said, talk therapy, restructuring his way of viewing things, cognitive restructuring. So it depends. Even when we say that depression constitutes 80%, again, we have mild, moderate, severe depression. So a mild depression might not require medication. You just would want to restructure his thinking, his way of viewing reality. Probably there might be a problem that he is not able to solve. Just drawing his attention or helping him to solve that problem might be able to get the person. So it's not always that you need to give medication, but of course, where medication needs to be given because of the very condition, then of course that also be needed. That to be, and there are various types of medications to relieve depression, to relieve psychosis, various kinds.
Is there a way that I can identify that somebody in my household would want to do something untowards? Because I mean, if I have somebody and they had, B, all A's and 1B, I'm happy for that person. I think, this guy should be over the moon. So the last thing I would want to do is, trying to tail him to see, if he's, not happy with what he got. How do you identify somebody like that?
To start with, a good number of them you can identify and see, but often we trivialize, even when we see. We tend to think it's not important, and yet, and there it's important, and then when it happens, then with the benefit of hindsight, hindsight is always wise. With the benefit of hindsight, you say, so all that I was saying was really true. Some of the things that will help us to see the person's behavior, the change in the person's behavior might get you to realize that there is something untoward. For instance, somebody who was earlier bubbly would be happy, talk to you, converse with you. Now, for a few days back, or a couple of weeks, you talk to him, just one word answer, nods or shakes the head, that's all. Disinterested. Apparently lost interest in anything that normally he would be interested in doing. That should tell you that. And then also the person withdraws to himself. That should tell you that there is something going on. It may not necessarily be suicidal. This could simply be straight for depression. But then depression that could also have some suicidal behavior as a component. So that should strike you as something odd. That is one. Somebody might actually be sitting down and always sighing. That is something that should strike you, that there is something wrong. Especially as you know him earlier and he was not like that. Or somebody, his demeanor generally tells you that he's unhappy in the last few days. It should tell you something going on. Somebody might actually verbalize and tell you that I'm not happy. Life is not worth it. I feel like ending it. And this sometimes you hear, and somebody may even tell you that I really want to kill myself. And you say, if you really meant to kill yourself, you wouldn't tell me. You'd have gone straight ahead and done it. And that is wrong. So what I'm saying is that, yes, by their behavior, by their conduct, by the way they relate to you or others, and now the change, it will tell you there's something wrong. And sometimes they may verbalize it, tell you, and that you should never, never overlook or trivialize it. Others might organize themselves. Earlier, they were quite disorganized in their life. Now they become very organized, putting things right here and there. Or some might even give instructions as to how to take care of their children. Why are you going that you are giving instructions how to take care of your children? All this should strike you. Particularly somebody that you know that probably his background or what has been happening to him, he's been going through some stresses and now begins to make such statements. So these are some of the things that will help us to recognize that there is something wrong and that we should intervene.
Is there any particular grouping that we are more, prone? Any particular grouping?
In the past, if you heard of suicide when you were children, if you heard of anybody had attempted or committed suicide, that person was obviously an adult. 40 years, 50 years, 60 years. At that stage, probably they look back and say, this is something I failed to do, I missed to do, something of that nature. And then we also appreciate that the stresses of life. But now, as young as you said in your intro, as young as 9, 10, 11, they are committing suicide. The dynamics have changed. Just this morning, as we were having this program elsewhere, one of us said that when she was talking to a 6-year-old person, in fact, they gave them some essays to write, and this 6-year-old person was writing and talking about a suicide. 6-year-old boy, what do you know about suicide? But remember, our age, those days, is different from the current time. They have access to the internet, they have access to the media, TV, they are hearing and knowing a whole lot of things that in our days we didn't know. So one of the disadvantages side, the flip side of globalization. So what is happening elsewhere, everybody knows it. And they all form the impressions. Children learn more from what they see than what they hear. So as they see this on the internet, they see adults, they form their impressions. So children are also have their issues. So as I said, 9 years, 10 years, 11 years, they have their issues. Often what adults think that, but a child, what do you care? What do you know about, what are your challenges in life? You have no school fees to pay, you have no job money, upkeep money to give. What's your problem? But they have their issues. What is your problem may not be his problem. What is his problem may not be your problem. You can afford to fail an examination. We have all gone through success and failures. So one failure means nothing to you. That person cannot stand it because of teases from friends. He can't stand it. And to you, you trivialize it. He will not trivialize. You will lose your let's say 10,000, let's say 1,000 cedis. No big deal. You'll work for it. A child may lose 5 pesos, and that's a lot of money. And that's a lot of issue. So these are the things.
Yes, and I think that aside the developmental phases, like the age thing, that it's no respecter of socioeconomic class. We must realize that recent events and people who have completed suicide should tell us that if you find yourself in a certain situation and you don't deal with what you're going through, you may trip. You know, you may be high up there and low up there. You may be very, very spiritual or religious, because we have had incidents of the clergy, some of them committing suicide. So we must recognize the signs and be open and be very, very willing to deal with it. And by dealing with it, we must also deal with stigma.
I want to take a break. Let me just this question before I take the break is, I mean, how true is somebody saying, look, I have no one. The person is married, has kids, works, church member, and still says, I have no one. I mean, how true is this?
Well, it can be true. When nobody is paying attention to you or really infantilizes you, your opinion doesn't matter. You can be in a crowd and feel alone because everybody is minding their own business. We become so, individualized. You know, there is so much individuation, focusing on the self, the I, that in a collective you still get lost. So yes, people can be in the collective and still get lost. It's true. It can happen.
Well, let me take a quick break and come back, and I'm sure there may be somebody out there who's feeling very, very lonely in this crowded world. I'll put the number out and then you call. I have 2 experts in the house, and this evening, who knows, you may find just that one person who will listen to you. Don't go away. Well, thank you very much for staying. There's an interesting message here which I think I should read. Nana, thank you and your guest for bringing attention to suicide. Improving awareness helps to remove the stigma associated with mental illness. We do not take mental illness seriously enough in Ghana. Perhaps it's partly rooted in some of the beliefs regarding the causes of mental illness. If you look at the sorry state of the Accra Psychiatric Hospital, it gives you an indication of how we prioritize mental illness. There's a whole spectrum ranging from depression, including postpartum depression, schizophrenia, psychosis, etc. A healthy society is not just about the obvious chronic acute diseases, but also our state of mind. Let's not discount the increasing role of drug abuse and sexual abuse in the prevalence in mental illness in Ghana. Is it possible for some of the teachers in our schools to be trained on identifying red flags, since we don't have counselors, psychologists in our schools? This is from Dr. Zinat Rollins. Doc, let me give you that one.
Yeah, to start with, before I get in, let me just add to the point that you made, that how can somebody, you be in a big family and you say that you are lonely? Being alone is not the same as being lonely.
That's it.
If you're alone, counting one person, you are there. But lonely, you can be in the midst of plenty people. and yet you feel lonely. You feel a certain sense of disconnect. You feel a certain sense of loss of belonging. So everybody is against you. And by the way, that feeling may come not necessarily because there's nobody near you, but the way you perceive reality. When you get to that certain state of despair, you see everything gloomy. People are around you, and yet you think that they are far from you. So it's also said that we perceive the world not as it is, but as we are. Mm-hmm. So based on the state in which you find yourself, you see everything gloomy, you single, being alone. Now, this issue of, yes, Honorable saying that there are various issues contributing to this neglect of the society of mental health issues. That is very true. We have neglected mental health care. In fact, we have been playing the ostrich, I keep saying. Mm. We pretend because the ostrich, the head is buried in the sand, it does not see everybody, so it thinks nobody else also sees it. So that is what we've been pretending, that these are not issues. Bread and butter issues. In fairness, I agree with you that if you have very little money in the kitty, the national kitty, and you have to attend to conditions that kill people very easily, the malarias, the diarrheas, and whatnot, then you tend to give your attention, or the little money you have, to those cases that can otherwise kill. Mental illness will not immediately kill you, so people don't seem to give attention to that. But now, the whole world has recognized that you could be alive but virtually a vegetable. Mm. And that's why the concept of disability adjusted life years has been introduced to show that to what extent is a particular condition causing or contributing to a burden of disease that is robbing you of your quality of life. If you look at it that way, then you realize that mental health problems contribute a lot to this daily loss, disability adjusted life years loss. So as a nation, we need to give attention. Civil society, the policymakers, the legislature, we all have responsibilities. And if you sit up and decide to play our role, I'm sure you'll get it.
Let me come to psychologists. I followed my wife to a couple of schools, and she went to give a lecture. And then she said that, people should write their issues, but don't put your name on it. Mm. My goodness.
Yeah.
My goodness. So when I came back, I was on radio then, and I said, look, I think, there should be a psychiatrist in every school, or one that visits, maybe periodically, so these kids can go out and pour out. Because it looks as if, they had these issues, but now that they were not supposed to put their name, but just write the problems. Some of the problems that came out. What are we doing? I don't know what you can do about it, but let me just ask you anyway.
Well, if you're not careful, you'll be overwhelmed because the problems are huge. And as Doc said, we've been playing ostrich. I think that we are not, and we must be blunt when it comes to some of these things, we are not a very caring society. Mm. If anybody is living under the impression that we care as a society, I want to contest that.
But it's a perception, though. You agree that we have a perception that we are very caring?
Yeah, and it's very, very deep. We are hospitable, we are caring, we are all that. I think if you are in the trenches, and you know how much little is needed to bring hope to someone and it is not there, you wouldn't believe in that myth. Mm. It is a myth. We are not. And I think that if you look at our mental health infrastructure alone, great nations are not nations that build skyscrapers, but nations that take care of the most vulnerable in their societies: children, women, people suffering from mental illness and all that. And if you outline these indicators and measure how well we are doing, it is clear that we are not doing enough. And so we need to do enough. As we speak, we are not doing that much. The schools have issues. We haven't even talked about sexual abuse in our schools, which says the condition, particularly for women in their adult life, experiences of childhood sexual abuse sets the condition for future mental health issues. All over the world, it has been established. How you respond to it sets the foundation. And so we are not doing enough. The little that we have, how well are we sharing the cake. You know, Dr. Osei has been championing resources must be earmarked for our mental health infrastructure. Nobody's listening the way they ought to listen. I'm not saying nothing is going, but if you look at the need and the resources being allocated, no, do we even factor mental health analysis into all the things that we do? When it is budget time, do we look at how much is needed to make people productive? We talk about disability. People are working and they are not productive. Have you asked why? There's so much stress in the system. In all the, and I think I need to say this. I want to put the banking crisis at the center of my intervention this evening. Of all the discourse going on from the policy makers, we're not hearing the aftermath and the social economic upheaval that it will generate on families. Nobody is talking about it. From the state intervention, we are just looking at the numbers and numbers, crunching the numbers. But when you're crunching the numbers without looking at the fact that the human beings are the numbers that you are crunching, then you are not helping the system. And there are stressful periods. Economic crisis are very triggering moments for some of these things that we are talking about. So I want us to pay attention to it. I want to hear the governor, the Minister of Finance telling us that all these things that we are doing, we are sanitizing the banking system, but there are consequences for livelihoods. There are families who are losing their job, and it will impact them mentally. And we need to provide safety gaps for them. We need to provide safety nets for them. We are not hearing that, and I'm worried.
Doc, is suicide on the rise in Ghana, or just the age that has dropped?
Well, there are really no data exactly for us to say yes or no.
Okay.
But the perception out there, the reportage that we are getting daily, tells us somehow that yes, we are getting increased numbers. In fact, the only significant data that we have in terms of numbers is what an NGO a few years ago came and said 1,500 patients or people die from suicides every year. Since then, the NGO has not done any more work, so we don't know whether it's increased or not. But again, as I said, the reportage that we are getting, it looks like it's on the rise, and we need to be careful. Plus, as you said, the age coming down. And then in the past, the demographics. First, if you heard of a suicide, one was an adult, two was a man, three was somebody down there. Now they are changing. We've talked about the age of onset. And Adolf also talked about the classes. Now all classes. You remember not too long ago, about 5-6 years ago, a diplomat actually committed suicide by jumping from a tower down. That's a diplomat, former diplomat. We have had a doctor actually shooting himself here in Ghana. So nobody is really immune. It cuts across. And again, in fact, the only thing that seems to have been some constant of some sort was the gender. For a long time, it was like it was more men than women. But now it's even changing. Last year, the 20 people within 3 months period who committed suicide, it was more like balanced. In fact, the very first one that committed was a lady. It was generally balanced. In the last 26 weeks, in fact, last year, since we had a surge, we gave our phone lines as helplines because we are having challenges getting the telcos to give us. We've had the dedicated line, all right, the toll-free line, but we've not activated it because we've not got the telcos to agree to take the bills. So we have given our own lines, and at the peak of it last year, we had about 200 calls a day, but it gradually went down. But now, almost every night, I get a call, almost every night. So I decided that the last 6 weeks that I will now be more particular about the demographics. And again, as I said, the last 6 weeks, about 20 cases that I decided to be serious with their demographics. it still goes to more females. In fact, it's more females than males who have attempted. That one is true. More females attempt than males, and more males complete than females. So 12 females out of the 20 and 8 males have thought or contemplated or planned or attempted.
Wow.
But the age, they are mostly between 18 to 35. A good number of them 20 to 23, 24, 25. A good number of them are students, after schooling, and they are talking about not getting job, joblessness. A few of them relationship problems. My boyfriend has jilted me. What do I do? These are some of the issues. Poverty, I've lost my job, and I cannot fend for my kids' school fees. These are issues. So the demographics are generally changing from what we knew to be the situation.
Production, if you give us the numbers so that we can put it out and see, if there are one or two people out there who think there's no light at the end of the tunnel. But is there always light at the end of the tunnel?
Always. 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 A moment pause to rethink maybe all that someone contemplating suicide needs. And so there is always light at the end of the tunnel. Once we are sensitive, we don't trivialize it. We pay attention. We encourage people. There's always a thought.
Like Doc is saying, I've lost my job. Embarrassment between his wife, his status. He's written, 1,000 CVs. He's not getting a job. Where's the light? If there was a light, you would have probably seen it. So what do you do? Well, just hang in there with your embarrassment. God will help. What do you do?
Let me talk about two ways. When you have control over a problem, how you deal with it differs from when you don't have control over it. In this particular instance, it appears that gloom is permanent. Nothing is changing. But how do you see it? You have control over how you feel, because your feeling is dependent on how you interpret the circumstances around you. Yeah, it looks gloomy, but you can have a story. You can have a story out of it that will be inspiring. You may not have, because you are in a tunnel, you may not have looked at the other areas. That is why you need someone to talk to who will expose you to the other options available to you. Your own, ingenuity and resilience may come out when you talk to a professional. It is absolutely important. The story you tell which based on how you interpret a condition is extremely important in this case.
I'm going to take a quick break and come back and find out from Dr. Osei that can one's mental condition affect how he approaches a situation? I.e., if I lose my job and Mr. B lose his job, could Mr. B have a mental condition that makes him think that, me losing my job means I have to lose my life, whereas I think losing my job, so what, I'm probably going to fend off my wife? Stay tuned, I'm coming. Well, thank you very much for staying, and the number is 0302 211 691 0302 211 691 or 692. Call in. Let's hear. Maybe you have this, deep troubling thing that you think, look, for me, my situation cannot be helped, or this thing I think I can get help. So let me talk to somebody. Today is your lucky day. But Doc, I was trying to find out, can somebody's mental condition affect the way they deal with the problem, i.e., joblessness and hopelessness? Can two people handle it differently because of how they...
Precisely. Adolf talked about biological factors, and then we also have psychological factors, social factors. All these contribute to your state of mental health at any time. Now, let's take two people who have lost their jobs. One person has lost a job, the other has, both have lost their jobs. How they handle it differently. Now, the person who has lost the job and committed suicide, you will just look at the fact that he's lost the job, and why should you commit suicide because you lost your job? The joblessness or the loss of job is only the last straw that broke the camel's back. this person would have gone through lots of circumstances which would have prepared him. We call that predisposing. It has prepared him adequately such that in the presence of a trigger, then he breaks down. So the other person who may not have been prepared, who may not have gone through those issues of life, and those things that prepare you will go right from childhood, in fact, your upbringing, the abuses you may have gone through, in the case of ladies, the rape, defilement that you may have gone through, the insults, the teases in school, all those things prepare you, they predispose you. So for somebody who has gone through this kind of situation, it's like saying his or her mental backbone is weak. So you come into contact with a trigger, like you lose your job, and then you crumble. The other person who has not had that preparation, that disposing factors, he has got a strong backbone. Or maybe his own experiences have immunized him. So he's got a strong backbone. So he loses his job. That's why I gave the example that you and I may write an examination. If it does not go well, we are adult, we come far away. But somebody who has not got that experience, he comes. So it is not the issue per se, but the preparation. And that brings the question of your state of mind. So your state of mind might make you interpret the reality out there as against you, the world is against you, everybody is against you, and therefore let me handle it differently. Wow. Somebody else also looks at it differently. 0302-211-691. Let's hear you. Doctor, is this still criminalized or have we decriminalized it? It's still criminalized.
Oh dear.
What we've done in the absence of whilst waiting to get it repealed is that we've also taken the judges through and the police through, not all of them, but at least we started. Such that if a judge sees a case of attempted suicide, he will now remember that, I was told that this person may well be having mental health problems, and therefore let me take him for assessment.
Let's speak to Razak. Hello, Razak.
Hello.
Good evening, my brother.
Good evening, sir.
Good. Can I, well, my experts are here.
Yeah.
Let me hear you. Do you have any problem or issue?
Yeah, actually, my problem is that I do have this feeling in me when I'm alone in a room or an enclosed place and I'm always alone. I feel like something is going to happen to me, or like some fear in me, as if I'm going to die. And always when I'm moving, I feel like I'm going to die. I think about death, like always having this kind of thoughts around. And when I'm alone, I always have fear that somebody's attacking me or something is going to happen to me. I'm not happy. I just don't have anything that excites me anymore. I'm always having that kind of thoughts in my mind.
Wow.
All the time. And I don't know how to deal with it.
Okay, Razak,
I'm not a happy person at all.
Razak, thank you for calling, but we'll definitely get a number to put out before the end of the show. So
okay.
Stay tuned. Please stay tuned for me, Razak. We'll get a number to put out there. Who's my next caller? Muntari. Hello, Muntari.
Hello, Nana.
Yes,
evening,
boss.
Please.
Good evening.
This is Muntari from Bimbila.
Muntari, talk. Yeah.
And I want to beg you so that you add it to one of your listeners. The labor experts who are usually talking on this downsizing issue. It is my hope that at least the psychologists or people from the mental health background will be added to the team that usually educate people who are going to be affected from this retrenchment and downsizing from many institutions, so that those people would have at least a background that if they are at home and they even have nothing to talk, people are not around to talk to them, at least when they put those cassettes of hope, they will be able to come out with ideas as to how to go out into the world again and still struggle. But I always feel for them, because I see that people who provide the necessities of life are now going to sit at home and always be thinking
I've got that point. Thank you very much.
Yes,
Let me speak. Thank you. Let me speak to Papa in Sehuyoso. Papa.
Hello.
Good afternoon, Papa. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, let me hear you.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Good. I'm listening to you. Listen to me from via
Good
phone.
evening, sir.
Yeah, listen to me via the phone, okay?
I'm calling from Serioso.
Yeah, turn off the TV so I can hear you, please.
Hello?
Papa, turn off the TV so I can hear you.
I've sent.
Okay, good. Then we are listening to you. Are you there, Papa? Oh, did the line drop? I really don't want to be dropping these calls, please. 0302 211 691. Keep your calls coming. But maybe Razak's issue. Let's hear you.
Well, I mean, Razak needs to be seen because you don't have enough to do a very thorough assessment.
Okay.
But it says always. How long is always?
Okay.
And what are the circumstances he's living through? So when the numbers are given,
probably call. So Razak, you'll probably give a call. Somebody also raised that issue that look, those who are being laid off, don't just think about their pockets. Think about their frame of mind too. Doc, do you agree with that?
Perfect. I agree with him. In fact, adults started by giving the example of the bankers. It's perfect. I think it's a perfect example. So that as we look at the HR packages for them, we must certainly include mental health issues. So there must be a mental health person amongst the team that considers whatever package, whatever considers the information announcement we give it to them to prepare their minds adequately. It's a perfect idea.
Okay, I have Rufai from Kumasi. Hello, Rufai.
Yes, hello. Good evening.
Good evening, my brother.
Okay. Please, I have a little question to ask.
Sure.
Yes, please. Can we relate our state of corruption in Ghana to mental health problems?
No, that's a big question. Well, I have two big people here, so I'm glad you didn't ask me that question. Just say, I wish you'd have asked this question in Twi. English, sometimes I say thank God for English, you know. If they translate this question in Twi, it will be very, very deep, but I'll stick to English. Can we relate this corruption to mental frame of mind? Thank you too, my brother.
Well, let me say that, yes, we have mental health problems in themselves, and you also have crime. Sometimes there's a significant overlap between mental health problem causing crime or crime also causing mental problems. But sometimes, or oftentimes, they are independent. Corruption is a crime in itself. So it's a crime and should be dealt with as such.
Well,
but I also agree.
If it's a mental condition making us cause this crime.
No, in fact, there's a condition called hoarding syndrome.
I see.
Where you hoard things even when you don't need them.
I see.
But invariably, people who are engaged in corruption, they need the money, except that they need it over and above. So it's really a criminal issue. And not, you don't associate with mental health.
That was an interesting question. That was an interesting question. But is there something we can do to increase our awareness, our affection, our attitude towards the disadvantaged a bit? Because it seems to be the same old song, same old thing, or is there something that, I don't know, would make us become more empathetic?
I think we need to appreciate human beings. We need to show kindness. We need to value human life, and we need to dignify human beings.
I mean, but will we ever? I mean, like Charlie Hebdo. 7 people died, and even African leaders flew to go and solidarize with them. There's a national day of mourning. Recently, the bridge collapses at Italy. 22 people died, and it was a national day of mourning. I mean, 63 people can be run over by a tomato truck. Well, so what? Business as usual.
It's about, do we value human life? Do we dignify, human beings?
But it is perceived that we do.
It is not true. Don't judge us by what we say. Judge us by what we do. What do we do? I have become disillusioned about speeches, particularly to do with children. You and I can just have time, analyzing promises and all that. But for children, they don't have the capacity to put promises in perspective. It's here and now. Time is of essence. What are you doing for me? Tangible. I must feel it. It's here. So it is about what we do. Let's talk more action. Showing love, showing just courtesies. Some of the things, we don't need so much money. It's just somebody paying attention. We don't need. Do you know that we don't even have a shelter in this country for abused women and children? We don't have it. But if a shelter, a child years back who had been, defiled by the father, incest, going to the bush to go, he took poison. She took poison, walked to the bush to go and just die. She saw a big snake and ran home. She had to be brought to the shelter to have the benefit of a psychologist. I am telling you that the shelter is collapsed. How much money do we need to get the systems running? Somebody is not paying attention. There will be enough to go around if we just pay attention. We prioritize it. If only we prioritize it, it can be done.
Doc, maybe more of us are mad than you are telling us all.
Well, if you say 1 in 5, for every 5 people you meet, one has a mental problem. 30 million, 20%. You are talking about some 6 billion or so. That's a lot.
Maybe you're being conservative.
Well, but if it is 6 billion,
if I'm listening to Adolf, and there are 110 ministers, including a president and a vice, added on top of that 110, and still we can't budget some small amount to keep some sort of a shelter going, then maybe there's more than 1 in 5.
No. There is one thing that a statement I've been making, and I don't think I've got a certain critical mass to appreciate that point. It is our concept of development. What you call development, if you say we are a developing nation, everybody's mind goes to the fact that we don't have money. Wrong. It means we are now developing our systems, including our appreciation of the vulnerable and how to handle the vulnerable, how to handle the child. These are developmental issues. If we begin to understand that concept, we will change our paradigm of development right now. Right now, our paradigm is, you give us money, somebody come give us money, let's put infrastructure. We think development is infrastructure. Wrong.
It's more the mind.
It's more the mind, more our systems. The systems that take care of the vulnerable are systems that look at the functionality of issues. That is development and not simply infrastructure.
So
infrastructure is good. I'm not saying it's not good.
Of course.
But it should be tied to development of systems.
And the greater disability is when you've lost touch with reality, and there is no help for you. What can you do?
Well, at the moment we're looking at, even though we are talking about mental illness now, but look, over 2,000 people just get killed on the road on a yearly basis. I mean, that's like acceptable genocide on its own. And still, every year they target that, well, maybe we'll aim at 1,500. Really, other countries aim at 0. And we peg 1,500 and still exceed it. I mean, that's a problem on its own. And I think that maybe now that the conversation has started, we won't wait until next year that there's a suicide day before we are. So I'm blaming myself too as a media. Maybe we need to open our doors and give our airspaces to important issues like this. But the number is 024-366-2001. 024-366-2001. That's Dante's Fashion. Dante's Fashion. They give my shirts for the show. But we didn't put the number out. There's an online or number?
Hotline to the Art Foundation.
Okay. Let me take this number. You have to bear with me.
It's a personal line, but it's still used as.
This is a personal line.
But it's still used for now.
Okay, 050-991-4046. 050-991-4046. And then online is?
Yeah, 0243 7777773. The
Okay.
sevens are 5. 0243 7777773.
We did our best. Thank you for watching. We're back to do this all over again. Thank you.